I promise to exemplify positive masculinity.
Our next panelist is Mr. Mohammed Kerkulah, the CEO of Gonet Africa.
Thank you. So the question is practical tools, and of course, try my best to at least share this. And so there are basically a few things that I would like to share, especially 6 key points that I believe they are practical, and we all can implement them because we are already doing so in different spaces. The first one has to do with personal commitment and role modeling. The issue of gender-based violence, the issue of gender equality cannot be achieved if we don't make personal commitment. That means individuals, both men and women, we should commit to gender equality. Most times what we see happen is institutional policies, national legislation, systemic changes, or any other framework to protect women or to promote gender equality cannot be achieved if we don't make personal commitment. So we all should think about, number one, you should be a role model. Your behavior should portray one who respects gender equality, who respects women's rights, and you are willing to talk about it. For example, if I am running an institution as the head of that institution and I have a personal commitment to protect the rights of every woman in that organization, that will obviously be enshrined in our policy. And that policy is not just going to be a written document, it's going to be actionable because I have a personal commitment to protect the rights of every woman in that particular organization. Number 2 is institutional practices. How are we practicing this? How are we protecting the rights of women in our own organization? Do we have a gender policy? That is key. Because if you don't have a gender policy that clearly outlines zero tolerance to gender violence and other key actions that will be taken against people who violate those policies, at the end of the day, it becomes difficult for you to take certain action against people in the workplaces or in institutions. So first, it must be legalized so that the institution use that legal instrument as a means of ensuring discipline within the workplace and protecting the rights of women. Number 3, there must be education and awareness programs. And of course, I see that these things are already happening in different spaces. So how do we institutionalize education and awareness programs? How are we engaging schools and other institutions that we can ensure they educate and create awareness on gender-based violence, the rights of women, and other things surrounding that. Number 4, men should learn to listen. I mean, women are they are beautiful, they are wonderfully made, sincerely, but they are very complicated at times. So listening is key. But when we listen, we should also learn. So that when we learn from these different experiences, then it means that we are building a space where young women, girls can be able to thrive. Number 5 is there must be community and national advocacy. Of course, that is already happening with these different groups. And we should increasingly do that so that we can achieve gender equality. The last one I want to emphasize is monitoring and evaluation. Men can be allies, but again, we must also be able to track good things are happening, people that are demonstrating these practices, people that are promoting women in institutions, and we should gather relevant data and report on it, and possibly be able to name and theme these individuals who are promoting gender equality, especially giving some recognition, some awards to men who are championing these causes in their different institutions. I believe that if we start to do that through effective monitoring and evaluation, reporting on progress against targets on gender equality and women's empowerment, that will ensure we are at least seeing progress, we are seeing things happening, we can learn from best practices, and I'm very sure in the next 5 years or even beyond, we are able to make significant strides with that aspect. Thank you.
or resistance that men do face when they're trying to support, or when they are usually trying to support, when they are supporting gender equality, and how collectively we can be able to address those resistance and challenges?
Yes, resistance is something we experience almost every day. And I think it's because of the misunderstanding that we have. If you are trying to promote gender equality, most times your colleague, your counterpart, will always think that there's something going on with you and that person for which you are trying to protect them. So they'll be like, but why is the boss man so protective of this lady? And there's always a mindset that maybe you have an affair with this lady, and for that reason you are trying to protect that lady. So yes, there will obviously be resistance, especially when it comes to trying to protect women and ensuring that they have equal rights and they have the opportunities to grow in their own spaces. And people may misinterpret that, people may print that differently, and people may feel that you are trying to favor a particular person, maybe because of 1, 2, or 3 reasons. Let me say this, the resistance is not only with your male counterpart. The resistance, in fact, that most times you experience, especially as a man, if you're trying to protect a woman, is even with their female counterpart. And in fact, most women, if I have some private conversation with them, in fact, they will tell you, typically they have this mindset that no woman has ever grown to a higher height in society without compromising their body. It is not men saying that most times, it's that women. They are the ones saying that. So they too have a kind of belief that you can't get certain point until you do this. And because of that, they are afraid to grow. And they keep themselves in the back. So yes, the resistance will come from both sides. But what I think is important is do what is right and ensure that people get to see the reason why you are doing it. That's why I mentioned the issue of policies. So it shouldn't just be because you're doing it personally, but it's backed by policy. And they actually deserve it, not because they are women, but because they deserve it and they are qualified for it. Resistance will come, but let's keep pushing. We shouldn't fail. Thank you.
Can we advocate to have a compulsory and free education in Liberia for women up to PhD level to help our women empower themselves to make it free or easier for them to compete with us at the highest level? How can you create space for women to share their experience and perspective?
Let me just quickly respond to the two questions in a few seconds or so. The first one was creating a space for women to share their perspective. Well, this can be done in many ways. For you to create a safe space, meaning you must be able to listen to people very well. I think most times, trying to interrupt or trying to influence people or manipulate people in a negative way at the end of the day is wrong. So you can listen, and you are not listening to just respond. You are listening to learn. You are listening to understand. And then the last thing is you should believe. One thing is if you listen and you don't believe, and people get to understand that most times you just pay deaf ear, even though you're listening, but you don't really believe what they are saying, and they don't see any outcomes or any results out of the many times they brought issues to you, they feel you don't have interest in those things. So you must listen, you must learn, you must believe, and also take action on some of those things. Lastly, whether gender equality can be achieved? Well, this question is not a yes or no question, but I will tell you something that maybe you can use to go and make a determination. The United Nations Sustainable Development Goals has what we call targets, indicators that help us to measure progress to determine as to whether a particular goal can be achieved. So one thing you can do is take a look at Goal 5, which has to do with gender equality. Look at the different indicators and targets that the UN has set to be able to measure achievement. When you talk about measuring achievement, it's just that everything will be done. There are targets that they have set. By 2030, they should be able to achieve these targets. And until 2030 comes and the UN conducts a comprehensive impact evaluation and let the whole world know the level at which they have reached towards achieving the SDG we can. There are annual SDG reports And these SDG reports that come up every year also profile different countries and their progress towards the targets of the SDG. So take interest in these reports, read it, and see what's the impact or the progress being made so far in tackling the different issues, especially when it comes to gender equality. Then you will determine if it is possible or if it has been achieved or if it will be achieved. That's all I can say, but not yes or no. Thank you.